What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you back on the channel. On today's episode, I'll be running you guys through 5 key lessons I learned as a founder starting a design-focused startup. A totally self-funded and self-sustaining startup, so no investors and no outside assistance. There was a lot of tough lessons that I learned along the way, and I've almost hesitated to put this video together for a while. I didn't want to come off as sounding like a guru or someone who thinks they know it all, because really, number one is you don't know it all, and you're sort of learning day in, day out. And that's actually a bonus tip, but that's something that it was a tough pill to swallow. So this is almost like a diary for myself over the next 5 years. Maybe I'll look back at this and I'll laugh. Maybe I'll like, this guy is an insightful person, but regardless, I hope that you guys can take a thing or two away from this and learn from the mistakes that I've had and the insights that I've built. Hey guys, and welcome to Fittdesign TV. So glad to have you here. On this channel, we discuss all things sports fashion, graphic design, manufacturing, and technology. We'll discuss key topics, answer pressing questions, and provide actionable steps on starting your own product line. If you're interested in any of the above topics, stick around. You're in for a good one. Number one, and most importantly, business is not a game and it's not a hobby. It's not something to drive yourself on passion. I hear this a lot. I'm passionate about this, so I'm going to build a business around this. That's all well and great, but what you don't realize is there's so many different parts of your business. And as you scale it and you grow it, you lose the ability to focus on the passionate parts of that business. It's part of scaling a business. And if you are so fixated on the idea that I'm someone who's extremely passionate about photography and I'm going to build a business around photography, and what you expect to do 24/7 is to take photos, you're in for a rough time. As you scale, you lose that one-to-one, and you can motivate yourself in the beginning, wake up every day with a ton of motivation to continue, but as the tough parts of building that business set in and the realities of having to structure an organization, make payroll, make sure that everything is in line, you will eventually find yourself detached from the core things that make you passionate about the business. So if you treat your business as a passion, I think you ultimately end up losing. You need to identify what or why it is you're doing what you're doing, and that needs to be bigger than just your passion. It needs to be something that transcends just one core or two skill sets. It should be something that can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be, but something that is immediately identifiable within yourself. Whether it's, I would love to help my parents, or I'd love to buy a house, or I've identified this problem that people are having and this is how I'm going to solve it, and this is why I need to solve it. Having a why will give you that motivation when the chips are down and things are stacked up against you, because it's going to happen more than you think. And those days when things are not going your way, and they're going to happen more often than not, that's really what's going to push you through. And if you can anchor yourself to that, that's a way to push through that superficial level of motivation that you have in the beginning. So definitely number one is take it seriously. Understand that there are tough parts to the business and you'll be overwhelmed by those tough parts. But the good news is you're equipped for the task and you're equipped to take it on, and you're able to push through, especially if you have that anchor point. Number two, you need to innovate, and then you need to automate. Automation means standardization, and innovation means identifying what your USP or your unique selling point is. You need to first excel at delivering a product or service that your competitors aren't able to do that. There's no point in being into a market if what you're offering is the same as everyone else. You're better than that. So figure out what angle you're going to take and how you're going to get a leg up on your competition. And when you do that, figure out how to standardize that service and how to automate that service. Automation can come with human automation, and that essentially means to be able to distill down a product or service into its core components and communicate that to the people that are helping you deliver that service. When it comes to our design services, early on, I unpacked what a garment design would entail, right down to the very last detail. And I was able to deliver final deliverables that I could automate and I could standardize across my team, and I could continuously improve and develop on. We use things internally like Adobe libraries, which allow us to compile extremely detailed tech packs and to almost create modules that the entire team can build upon to maintain conformity and to maintain a brand uniformity across our deliverables. So this is part of figuring out your standardization. I used to believe early on that I was the only one capable of delivering certain products, and I used to attach myself to the end result. And yes, that's good for your ego, but at the same time, it's not good for business. It doesn't allow you to scale, and it doesn't allow you to get a leg up. It's manageable when you have a certain level of business revenue, but as you scale and as you grow, it's no longer going to be manageable. So what's the point in innovating and delivering a great product or service if you can't scale it? If you can't deliver it to more and more people, if more and more people can't benefit from you? It's a win-win situation if you can deliver this product at scale. So focus on that. Don't get caught up in your ego, and don't get caught up in the specifics. Figure out how you're going to scale this thing and equip the people on your team with the tools they need to make it happen. Number 3, and this might sound extremely cheesy, but it is to think big, to break away from this freelancer mindset. And if this is something you want, if you're happy being a freelancer, there's no harm in that. I'm more speaking to the people who are starting with a creative passion and are really good at what they do, but they see or they have a yearning to build this thing beyond themselves. That was certainly my position, and I needed to take a lot of big risks early on with no guaranteed return of success. And it's extremely scary, and it's easy to fall into this habit or this mindset of, I'm making good money, I'm freelancing, and I'm busy, and maybe I don't need to start this business right now. I can put this off to the future. There will always be time in the future. The problem with saying there will always be time in the future is that the future arrives and you think that there's more time. Eventually, there is no more time. It's a bit somber to think of, but the reality is this: there's no time like the present, and I mean it, especially when it comes to taking the big risks and the moves that you want to make. If you're anchored to a strong vision and you have the conscientiousness needed to deliver on that vision, the time is now. Make sure that you move and make sure you take those risks, because you'll look back at it in 3-4 years, and if you've done everything that you need to do, it'll pay off, I promise you. So this was the biggest hurdle for me to overcome. It was the idea of, I don't have enough time to build the next level of my business. You just have to jump in. You jump into the deep end and you'll swim. You'll swim, and if you sink, you won't sink for long. You'll find your way to the surface and you'll make it happen. This is something that I've learned for myself, and it's given me the motivation needed to continue pushing. It's important to map out that expansion. So if you have an idea for breaking out of this freelancer mindset, map your expansion. Be specific. Give your yearly revenue target. Say, by this year, I used to have a Excel sheet that I would track every single order that I made, and I would track them, and I would see what I made that week and what I made that month. And over the year, I would look at that total and I wouldn't spend anything. And I would just I was so completely fixated on saying I wanted to reach X amount by this year. It's not the revenue figure that matters. It's the idea that if you set a goal and you genuinely take the steps necessary to make it happen, it will happen. And that reinforces a positive way of thinking in your mind. And it almost makes you feel like you can do anything. And that's so important, because you need to have that confidence. It sounds extremely cliche, but you need to have that confidence. And by mapping out your expansion, saying, I want to make X revenues, this is how I'm going to do it. Within the first year, these are the people I'm going to hire. This is what they're going to do. These are the products they're going to offer. This is where we're going to be. That's going to set you up to get to where you need to get. Number 4 is to drop the ego. As the founder or a CEO of a company, there are certain things that you feel only you can do, certain services or a certain level of quality that only you can achieve. And that couldn't be more true. If you hire the right people and equip them and trust your team to deliver, that's what they'll do. And yes, there may be some things that only you can do, but those things are truly few and far in between, and you should identify them early on and focus on them. there are many more things that you can provide or delegate to your team than you think. And the challenge is to let go of that ego that only you can do these things early on, and to understand that the business should never be attached to your own execution or your own delivery or your own abilities. At the end of the day, you're building a team. You're building a team of talented individuals that should supplement and cover your weaknesses. And if you're standing over their shoulder, imposing your ego and doubting them to get the job done, that's not going to help you, and it's not going to help them. If you find yourself frustrated by the lack of work or the lack of quality getting done every day, you only have yourself to blame. And there's a reason for that. At the end of the day, if you've hired the wrong people and are keeping them around and have been unable to let go of them or to identify that, that's your fault. At the same time, if you've hired in the right people but have not empowered them and trusted them to get the job done and are noticing a lack of delivery from their side, or you're noticing that you're just redoing that work all over again, that's also your fault. So there's no one that's going to take the fault regardless of you. It's easy to point the blame and say this person is not doing their job, but at the end of the day, you're the person who put that person in place. So make sure that you're monitoring and make sure that you're empowering your team to get the job done, and make sure you're consistently dropping your ego. It's not worth it. Number 5, identify your vision and consistently enforce and reinforce it. This is huge for any startup looking to recruit good talent. People are, of course, motivated by feeling like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. Yes, money, stability, and a nice office can motivate people, but those are extremely surface level things. At the end of the day, your team and yourself will always ask, what's the point in all this? And if you don't have a clear and identifiable goal, you're not a company. You're just a group of people in the same room working on the same thing at the same time. And that's the sad reality. Well, that's it, guys. That's a wrap. That's been 5 things that I learned building a startup pretty much from scratch. And in 5 years, like I said, maybe I'll look back at this and I'll laugh, or maybe I will enjoy the lessons and the hindsight that I've been granted. If you guys enjoyed this type of video, please let us know. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Well, that's it, guys. That's a wrap. That's been 5 things that I learned building a business and essentially a self-sustaining startup. Of course, the next 5 years will maybe be drastically different than the first 5 years, and maybe I'll do an update video, but hopefully you guys have learned a thing or two from this. There's something that you can take away. Maybe this is something you're currently going through and you're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Let me know in the comments below which point you feel resonates with you the most, especially in your current standing or your current journey. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider smashing a thumbs up. It really does mean a lot. It helps others to see our videos, and it motivates us to keep pushing and to keep growing this amazing community. Thanks, guys, once again for tuning into Fittdesign TV. Until next time, stay awesome.